This video is brought to you by TrueFire. Over 2 million guitar players worldwide improve their playing using TrueFire's online lesson systems. Learn, practice, and play with TrueFire. Guitar string muting, licks, rhythms, and exercises. A 1, 2, and... Hey everybody, welcome back to Swift Guitar Lessons. One of the most powerful things about the sound of the guitar is its ability to add texture to a track. And one of the best ways of achieving that sound is to use these things that we call muted strums. So in today's lesson, I'm going to be sharing with you exercises for learning how to target individual notes as you mute the other 5 strings. From there, we're going to get into learning to use muted strums to create a funky style rhythm. Then in section 3, we're going to learn to use muted strums to create that classic SRV bluesy style rake. Alright, as I break down 3 hot licks, let's jump in. Okay, a close look at the fretboard, getting started with section 1 of this lesson. Learning the basic approach to muting strings as you target an individual note. So there are 2 ways of muting strings. You can use the left hand or the right hand, the fretting hand or the picking hand. So let's head over to the 8th fret of the G string. It's a good note to start with. It's right in the middle of the fretboard. All right, so if I want to just play this note while muting the other strings, I can do it in 2 ways. I can cover the other strings using my thumb and the side of my index finger. So now my index finger is very flat on the fretboard, almost like I'm gonna do a bar, except I'm not putting any pressure on the strings that are underneath of the note that I wanna play. All right, so from the G string down, I've got. Then my thumb can wrap around and I can probably get all 6 strings. A little vibrato sounds great against that raking sound. All right, so that's how we target an individual note using just the left hand. But very often there's a simultaneous technique going on here with the picking hand. I can use the side of my finger, that index finger, to mute the B string and high E string, but my right hand or my picking hand can cover up the low E, A string, and the D string. Now if you combine the right hand and the left hand wrapping the thumb over, then I have this insurance policy. There is no way any of those open strings are going to creep out into my sound. Okay, next, let's take a scale like the minor pentatonic key of C. And see if we can adjust that technique for each of the notes that we have in that scale. So the first note, C, my index finger is going to do all the work. It's just kind of laying down lazily over the strings I'm not using. So that way I can get that raking muted effect. Keep in mind though that you don't always have to utilize all the strings at once. Okay, so the C note. Next I've got my pinky note on the 11th fret of the low E. I'm just going to let my pinky do the same thing. All right, lay lazily over the strings beneath the target note. All right, next, I'm going to play the 8th fret of the A string. I can let my index finger lay over the adjacent strings and also wrap my thumb, just that way it's touching the low E string. All right, now you're starting to get the hang of it, up to the 10th fret of the A string. All right, now I'm blocking with my thumb and then also using my ring finger to lay across the other strings. Same thing, down 1 string. Then the G string, I can start to utilize that palm technique as I get to my higher strings. All right, just like that. All right, now the next thing I want you to try is to add a little chicka chicka rhythm against each of those notes. So. All right, that'll definitely take some practice. Do it real slow. Chicka, chicka, live. All right, cover up the strings. Chicka, chicka, live. Chicka, chicka, live. Chicka, chicka. utilizing the palm. Finding the right position for that palm. So that way you're not blocking the note that you want. One more time at full speed. A great exercise for practicing your muted picking. All right, just like that. Now that you have the basic approach, let's jump into learning a funky style rhythm. Okay, very good everybody. Now jumping into section 2 of this lesson, where we're going to be applying muted strums to our rhythm playing. A funky little rhythm like this. Okay, so here we're using localized picking, just focusing on the D string, G string, B string, and high E string, where we can really control that muting. I'm going to slide up to a partial of a C dominant 7 chord, just grabbing the 8th fret of the D string and 9th fret of the G string. All right, once I have that chord in place, I'm going to play chicka chicka on the high strings, making sure that I'm not putting any pressure down on the strings. I'm just touching them. All right, so again. All right, and right there at the tail end of the pattern, we're going to add in the 10th fret of the B string to create the chord C7 add 13. All right, over that chord, we're going to play down up, chicka. You add it into the mix and we have. Okay, so that's an example of a very cool funky rhythm that uses muted strums, but it's also going to help you build the sensitivity to go back and forth between notes that are voiced and those that are muted. Okay, beautifully done today, everybody. Thus far, you've learned how to voice an individual note when played against a muted strum, add in some texture into your lead playing, and you also learned a funky little rhythm. Using those localized muted strums and also those very cool chord partials to create dominant 7 chords, which is a technique that I got off of Robin Ford, who's an amazing blues guitarist and also a great instructor. He has a True Fire course breaking down all these very, very interesting and useful blues rhythm techniques. Okay, so you can use that to play C7. You can bring it down a half step. All right, to play F dominant 7. And you can bring it up a half step above where you started to play the 5 chord, all right, a partial of that G7 chord. So you can play a 1-4-5 blues progression just using that shape. The 5, the 4, all right, and back to the 1. So cool. All right, now that you have those concepts, let's jump into section number 3, where we're going to learn 3 very useful licks. Okay, jumping into lick number 1. For each of these, we're going to be imagining a basic shuffle rhythm behind us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And lick number 1 is going to sound like this coming out of that shuffle. 2, 3. And real slow. Okay, so there we're combining the minor pentatonic scale with the major pentatonic scale in the key of C. Starting off the same way Stevie Ray Vaughan starts off his riff in Texas Flood. Alright, so that was the 10th fret of the A string, 7th fret of the D, and then going up to the 10th fret of the D string, the root note to C. Alright, next we're going to apply our rake as we drag our pick down the muted strings, and then do a slight bend on the 8th fret of the G string. Alright, so far you have. Alright, then we're going to play. Alright, that was a pull off the D string, 10 down to 8, then to the 10th fret of the A string. 8 on the D, back, and then back again, before finally hammering up a full step on the D string, 8 up to 10. Alright, and then add in some heavy vibrato to finish up the lick. And make sure you can count it. A 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and a 3, and 4, and 1. Alright, now on to lick number 2. It's going to look and sound like this. One more time. Alright, you can see with that raking sound, it's so much more robust and so much more aggressive, right? Alright, so here we're going to take our palm, put it over the strings, so that way we're crowding everything, making sure everything's muted, and we're going to drag our pick down the muted string as we bend the high E string up. Now you'll also notice that as an insurance policy, my index finger is also laying lazily across the strings, just so that way there's no chance of one of those open strings producing a note. Alright, once we've done that, we're going to play 8-8 on the high E string and B string, before pulling off 11 down to 8, and then sliding up to the 13th fret of the B string into the upper extension for some vibrato. Alright, you put that lick together and we have a nice short one. Alright, now moving into our third and final lick, we're going to stay put right there in the upper extension of the C minor pentatonic scale. Picturing that shuffle, 1, 2, 3, 4, and... Alright, so that began grabbing the 13th fret of the high E string and bending it up a full step with the rake. I'm going to place my palm on the E string, A string, and D string, and then on my fretting hand, use everything I have at my disposal to mute the other strings. Dragging my pick through and bending. Alright, I'm going to bend and return twice, so... before playing... Alright, so that was the 11th fret of the high E string, 13 on the B. Alright, then I'm going to find a more flavorful note, leaving the position, going down to the 10th fret of the B string, back up to 13, then rake again as I grab the 11th fret of the high E string. Slight bend gets me back to the root note, 13th fret of the B string for some vibrato. Alright, you put that lick together and we've got... And with the rhythm in mind, 1, 2, 3, 4, and... Alright, just like that, 3 very useful licks that use the muting technique. Alright everybody, thanks so much for checking out this blues guitar tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Also, big thanks to my friends at TrueFire. This video was brought to you with their support. And friends, if you're looking to expand your learning options, I definitely recommend TrueFire. They have something like 50,000 different videos taught by some of my favorite guitar players like Josh Smith, Jack Rooch, and also Robin Ford, just to name a few. So I'm going to put a special promo code in the description so you can check that out. Also, big thanks to my friends at patreon.com/swiftlessons. Thanks to you guys, I got many more lessons coming up, so keep checking in. Please subscribe, please share. This is Rob at Swift Guitar Lessons in Philadelphia, saying happy picking.